You just don't know when to quit.
Yeah, I've been told that before.
Wow.
Are you guys seeing this?
I need a weapon.
Hello there.
He with you?
I thought church was good.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Slav's Free Talk Podcast, where we talk all things pop culture. I'm your host, Robert Slavinsky. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Glad to see you here. Glad to have you here. Yeah, we'll go with that. Glad to have you here. We have some things to talk about. We have, well, K-pop Demon Hunters. I tell you what, I've not talked about this for like the last, 2 or 3 weeks. But I can't not talk about it this week. So we're going to talk about that. There was an article that just dropped literally like an hour ago. Amazon is being sued. We're going to talk about why and how that could affect you even right now. So we'll talk about that. Let's see. We got some people complaining about the DCU and how children should or should not be watching the DCU. I'm going to talk about that and explain why these people are idiots. There's some things about Seth MacFarlane talking about Hollywood and how Hollywood has kind of lost all of its hope. It's hopeless anymore. So we're going to talk about that. And if there's time, there's one other story that I want to talk about that, we're seeing this narrative right now go around in regards to DC. And how James Gunn and this Superman movie has, quote-unquote, created the divide within the fandom. But I want to discuss, if there's time, I want to discuss how James Gunn and this Superman movie was the farthest thing that caused the divide in the fandom. How that divide came much, much earlier than that. So let's get into it. Who's here with us today? Trayvon's in here. He asked me if I was joining ICE because of the thumbnail where I'm in a suit. No. One of the stories is about Gears of War. So it's a Gears of War-esque suit. We got Xander Wild. Sorry for the long break, everyone. Things have occurred, so I am back. Well, welcome back, Xander. Nice to have you here. Who else? Oh, there's the only two in here right now. Well, that's sad. Hopefully more people join. Typically throughout the show, people will join, but that's okay. All right, so let's dive in to the first story, which is K-pop Demon Hunters. Look, this show came out a couple weeks back on Netflix, I should say a few weeks, more than a couple, but it came out on Netflix, and it's a Sony Animation movie in partnership with Netflix, and they released it, and it took a bit, but all of a sudden it just exploded. It absolutely exploded on Netflix. Fans have just eaten this thing up like crazy, and the only reason why I'm actually talking about it is because I have been exposed to it myself. My daughters, specifically my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old, have started listening to the music and started watching it on repeat over the last 4 or 5 days. Now, I'm going to say this, and you may laugh at me, you may not laugh at me, you do what you want to do, but the songs are catchy, and I haven't seen the whole movie yet. I haven't watched the whole movie. I haven't. But the songs are catchy. I will give them that. The songs are catchy. One of them is actually on my playlist now. So I'm listening to the song. I think the song Golden is absolutely, it's like a little earworm. It just gets in there and it just doesn't leave. But the songs are great. My kids are loving it. But besides that, this movie has absolutely exploded in pulp culture. It absolutely has. But something interesting happened. And the reason why I really want to bring this up is because something interesting happened. This movie released on Netflix, and because it did so well, they were like, hey, let's put it in theaters. So last weekend, they decided to put it in theaters. Or actually last week. I think it was before the weekend, but they put it in theaters last week. And it became the #1 movie at the domestic box office this past weekend with $18 million. That's incredible. Look, this could be earth-shaking for Hollywood and the industry. And I don't know if people quite understand that right now. And I don't even know if Hollywood understands it yet. Because think of it this way. All of these studios, all these major studios right now have access to streaming services. You have Disney with Disney Plus. You have Universal with Peacock. You have Paramount with Paramount Plus. Warner Brothers with HBO Max, and so on and so forth. If they're not sure about a movie, they could, and if it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg, if they're like, you know what, there's this movie that we really like, but we want to see if it has legs. If we want to see if it's going to have any standing, chance. They can release it on streaming, and people like it. And then they could say, you know what? Now let's put it in theaters. It's basically a marketing tool. That's almost what happened here. Now, it's not something that they can use with every movie. This isn't something that can be done constantly over and over and over again. This is something that can be done from time to time with certain types of films. But it's an interesting tactic that can be used now. Because you take a look at what happened with K-pop. Now, I get that what they did with this is they made it a sing-along. So in theaters, you could go to the theater, they put the words on the screen, you could sing along to it. And I get that's a different experience than sitting at home. You can go experience it with friends and family and strangers and sing along. And I've seen people taking videos and just people having a blast. But you can still do that with other films. Other studios can take chances with different types of films and do different things and experiment with this type of release now. Again, I'm not saying like they're going to do it with a DC movie. I'm not saying they're going to do it with, the next Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt movie. I'm not saying that. But there are some types of films that sometimes, hey, they put it out direct to streaming and it does really well on streaming. And they could say, you know what? It's doing really well. Let's throw it in theaters and see if we can make $20, $30 million. And there you have it. I think this is a really cool strategy that may have just been born out of this. Let's see what happens. But it is an interesting strategy. Now, I don't know. Like, we could talk more about K-pop if you want. Like I said, I haven't seen the whole movie. I saw the last, maybe 15, 20 minutes with my kids the other day. Again, I think the animation's really cool. I think the story that I saw was interesting. I need to see it from beginning to end to really understand the story because I didn't quite understand what was going on, what I saw. But I saw enough. The music's good. Yeah, I'm probably going to sit down and I'm probably going to watch the whole thing when I get a chance because, you know what? My kids like it. It looks interesting enough to me. Is it up my alley? Am I going to expect to sit there and say, oh man, this is the greatest thing ever? No, probably not. But I tell you what, whatever they did here is working. It is working. And I know there's a lot of people sitting here saying, oh man, Sony dropped the ball. They should have just released it in theaters. I don't think that it would have had the same amount of success had they just put it in theaters. That's the thing. I think because it went to streaming and it was accessible to so many people like it was, I think that is a big reason why it saw the success that it has seen. And that's okay because that's exciting. That's exciting for the audience. That's exciting for the studio. And again, like I said, this is kind of giving Hollywood maybe some ideas on how to approach releasing content in the future. But let me know your thoughts. I'd like to hear what you say or have maybe think about all this. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting tactic. Did you see K-pop Demon Hunters? Do you like it? Do you think it's is kind of the hit that it should be? Do you think they should have released it in theaters first? Do you think this could be a release strategy for the future for other studios? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right. Who do we got in here? We got Hope for Life. Oh, no, that's Jalen. Jalen, hello. How's it going? I see Hope for Life. Hope for Life says, hey, guys, missed this. Life happened. That's all right. That's okay. Life happens. It's okay. Trayvon says, ironically enough, Sony is the only Hollywood studio without without in-house streaming services. It's very true. They don't. They kind of license out all their content, but you're right, they don't. Let's see. Trayvon says, I honestly believe that streaming is the ultimate hoodwink. Netflix, for example, counts a single second of viewing as a full view, so a lot of the views for Netflix may be completely fabricated. You're not wrong, but it's still impressive what has happened with this movie. It really is. I think it's going to be interesting to see if this changes anything in the coming months, years, so on and so forth, with the way studios approach releasing their content. I do. I think it's interesting. I do. All right. Next door. Oh, wait. It still was K-pop. I forgot to say this. It's been so big that 7 of the 9 most consumed songs in the U.S. in the past week are from the movie. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's nuts. Okay. Moving on. All right. Gears of War. Now, I know we talked about this. It may have even been like a year ago. Like that. It's been a while. It's probably been like a year ago where Netflix has got the rights to make a Gears of War film. Well, it looks like they are in the middle of getting prepared to write or writing the movie and getting ready to maybe down the line get everything started. So the Hollywood Reporter, in an interview with David Leitch and I believe it was John Spates and McCormick, asked, let's see, where are you on Gears of War, on the Gears of War movie that David is attached to direct at Netflix? McCormick says, we're writing right now with John Spates, and we're really excited about it. There's a lot of energy from Gears of War Company, the Coalition, and from Netflix because the Coalition is releasing a game in 2026. We won't hit that release date, but maybe something that feels relevant to the release of the new game. It's an opportunity for David to do a war film, which he hasn't gotten to do yet, and a bit of sci-fi in his own way with this beloved IP in his own way. So I'm a little concerned about a couple things that he said there. Stating a bit of sci-fi in his own way with this beloved IP in his own way. Gears of War is a beloved IP. They say that, he says that in his comment here. It is a very much beloved IP. Why risk doing your own way when the story there, when the world there, when everything there is so beloved? Look, David Leitch, he's done some amazing films in the past. Deadpool, what was it, Deadpool 2, John, what was it, the first John Wick or the second John Wick? Like, he's been part of, making some really fun films. But here's the thing. People want a Gears of War movie to be a Gears of War movie. They don't want it to be a Deadpool film or a John Wick film. They want it to be a Gears of War movie. Yes, I understand that all directors, and writers, they put their little flair into the films that they make and in the writing that they make. But don't go too far. When you're making a Gears of War movie, make a Gears of War movie. Look what happened with the Halo series over at Paramount. They strayed too far away from what Halo was, and it was a mess. You got to be careful, and that's my concern. Because, look, I'm excited that they're getting onto it. They're writing it. They're getting to it. I'm a little disappointed that they're not closer to filming and getting to it as I would hope they would be. You know, a new game is due to release in 2026. If they're not even going to be ready by then, are they shooting for 2027 to be released? Are they shooting for 2028? Like, what is their goal to have something out? That's my that's my question at this point. Like, when are they looking to have this movie out? Like, I want it out now. I want it out yesterday. But what's the deal with that? I don't know. I think I talked about this before. Netflix movies, they're rough sometimes. Netflix movies can be rough. Their series are almost always hits. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. Their films, most times are not hits. Most times are misses. There's so much to worry about here, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. Are you big fans of Gears of War? What do you take from what McCormick here says about this? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Let's see. What are you saying over here? Who else is here? Critic Chris comes in. Hey, Slav, everyone. Sorry I'm late. You know what? It's unacceptable, Critic Chris. I tell you. Unacceptable. That's all right, man. What's going on? Brian with an I says, I, for one, am thankful that Rebel Moon never got a theatrical release. Yeah, me too, buddy. Me too. Let's see. Trayvon says, I honestly believe all these big budget movies are a waste of time if they go straight to streaming. There's a reason the Duffer Brothers left Netflix for Paramount after all. Very true. And Shaylin says, God, the Halo series was so bad. Donovan, I just got out of the Niza 2 OMFG. Well, good for you. Good for you. Isn't it the highest grossing movie this year? Isn't that what that is? Like, I know it's made a crazy amount of money. Trayvon says, there's a reason why I was ecstatic to see Blue Beetle in theaters instead of straight to HBO Max. It earned its day in the sun. Yeah, remember that was supposed to go straight to streaming, wasn't it? That was supposed to. Donovan, Sony really reeling from the effect of letting K-pop Demon Hunter slip. Donovan, again, like I said a little bit ago, I don't think K-pop would have been successful had it just been released in theaters. That's the thing. It's benefiting from being available like it was on streaming, and then they put it in theaters and they made their $20 million. Maybe if they keep it in, they'll make more. That's the thing. And here's where K-pop Demon Hunters can make a crap ton of money now, is make another one. You make another one, that's where you're going to make all your money now. So, in essence, what they did is going to work in the long run. Because had they made that movie and just released it in theaters, it probably would have bombed. And it probably would have found second life on streaming after the fact, and would have become a cult classic. People would have enjoyed it after the fact. But it would have bombed in the theaters in its first run. But the way they did it now, I think how everything played out is so much better than had they would have just released it in theaters from the get-go. I do. Donovan also says, to me, one of the best original Netflix series is The Queen's Gambit. Let's see. Hope for Life. Can't really say anything about Years of Divorce since I am never... Years of Divorce, Gears of War, I'm guessing is what you're saying. It says I've never played the games and I don't know anything about Gears of War. That's all right. Movie talk now. Rebel Moon was originally pitched as a Star Wars series. I can see Lucasfilm looking at that and going, ugh, no, thank you. Yeah, it was back in 2010, 2011, right before the sale to Disney, actually, I think. Was it right before or was it right after? I can't remember the story exactly. But he pitched it to Lucasfilm. Maybe it was right after. Maybe it was like 2013, maybe. He pitched it to Lucasfilm as a Star Wars movie. And they're like, yeah, no. Take it easy. Take a hike, buddy. Yeah. Donovan says Sony is in negotiations with director for a sequel and franchise. Yeah, I mean, that's where they're going to make all their money. All right. Moving on to this news story. Like I said, this one kind of dropped just a little while ago, which I thought was really, really interesting. So this here is Amazon is being sued in a new class action lawsuit. Now, the suit challenges Prime Video, telling people they can buy a movie when they're purchasing a license to watch it for a period of time. Now, how many of you have bought a movie on Amazon Prime? I mean, I have. I buy a lot of digital movies. That's pretty much how I do most of my buying when it comes to video games and movies anymore. Unless it's a movie I truly, truly, really, really like, and I really want to own it, I pretty much buy it digitally. Like, I own all the Star Wars, I own all the DC movies, I own a handful of the Marvel movies, like, you know, those things, because those are movies that I want to own. But most of the films, like, that I'm just like, hey, I like this movie, I'd like to own it just because I'd like to jump in, be able to watch it so I don't have to search what streaming service is it on. Like, I just want to own it so I can watch it. And those ones, I'll just buy digitally. So I have chosen that Amazon Prime would actually be my home hub to buy most of those movies. Unfortunately, before I decided Amazon Prime would be that hub, I bought some from this place or that place or this place or that place. So, you know, I have some that are in a few different places, but I decided Amazon Prime would be that area. So I've done that. Years ago, when I started doing that, though, I was under the impression when I clicked that button to buy that was my movie, that it was mine, that as long as I had access to Amazon Prime, that I signed into my Amazon Prime account, that movie would always be there from the time I bought it to the time I died and beyond. If my kids had access to my account, they could go on and watch it. If their grandkids and their grandkids had access, they could go on and watch it. But that's not so much the case. So a little known fact about movies and TV shows purchases online. What's being bought isn't actually ownership of the title, but rather a limited time license for viewing access. Consider the $4.99 director's cut of Alien on Amazon Prime Video. That's cheap, right? But if the tech giant loses the rights to that version, the movie can be replaced with a different cut, like the one from theaters. And if Amazon loses the rights to the film altogether, it'll completely disappear from the viewer's library. So, should Amazon be able to say a consumer is buying that movie? Some people don't think so, and they've turned to courts. On Friday, a proposed class action was filed in Washington federal court against Amazon over a bait and switch in which the company allegedly misleads consumers into believing they've purchased content when they're only getting a license to watch, which can be revoked at any time. The issue came to the forefront at the California legislature in 2023 when gamers discovered that their access to The Crew would be cut off once Ubisoft shut down servers for the game. After the Stop Killing Games movement was born to stop publishers from destroying titles consumers had already bought. The way in which digital transactions are structured, the lack of transparency around them, and the streaming landscape is partly why physical media is sort of cool again. DVDs offer the ability, now and forever, to bypass the complicated web of licenses that leave fans unable to access their favorite titles. The lawsuit accuses Amazon, which didn't respond to a request for comment, of misrepresenting the nature of movie and TV transactions during the purchase process. On its website and platform, the company tells consumers they can buy a movie, but hidden in a footnote on the confirmation page in fine print that says you receive a license to the video and you agree to our terms, the complaint says. The issue is already before a court. In 2020 lawsuit alleging unfair competition and false advertising over the practice, Amazon maintained that its use of the word buy for digital content isn't deceptive because consumers understand their purchases are subject to licenses. Quoting Webster's dictionary, it said that the term means rights to the use of or service of payment, rather than perpetual ownership, and that its disclosures properly warn people that they may lose access. The court ultimately rebuffed Amazon's bid to dismiss the lawsuit outside of a claim alleging a violation of Washington's unjust enrichment law. Recent legislative changes may make the lawsuit even more viable. Earlier this year, a California law went into effect barring the advertisement of a transaction as a purchase unless it offers unrestricted ownership of the product. Under the statute, sellers must obtain acknowledgement that the buyers are aware they're actually buying a limited license, in this case, movies or TV shows that can be revoked. Amazon does not meet the standards set by the statute for a clear and conspicuous notice that the thing they are purchasing is a revocable license to access the digital good. So anyways, there's not much more. But anyways, that is what is going on. This is going to be interesting, how this plays out. What does that mean? Will there be any repercussions for those of us who have purchased things prior to this? So let's say Amazon ends up losing this class action suit. Will there be monetary repercussions where those of us who have purchased things prior to this and over the last number of years will get some money back? Or will we be guaranteed that the movie that we got we'll be able to keep forever? That's not going to be possible. That's what I'm curious about, how this is all going to play out. But it makes you think, is buying digital the right move? Is it the right move? Is this the move that we should all be making? Streaming, I'm okay with. I have my Apple Music. I know that I don't own any of that stuff. I know things can go away here and there at all times, on Apple Music or HBO Max or Netflix, all that kind of stuff. I understand how those work. But when I hit that buy button, and I buy, a Dune, and I'm like, oh man, I got Dune. It's on there. It's on my Movies Now. I purchase it on Amazon Prime, and it's over on my Movies Now page. In 5 years, I want to go like, I want to watch Dune. And then I go to watch it, and it's not there. And I find out it's because Amazon lost the licensing to having Dune. Well, how is that fair? Because I bought it, and no, for those 5 years, I didn't watch it because I didn't feel like watching it, but I wanted to make sure I had it during that time. And now I can't watch it. Like, that to me is just unfair because, I buy movies, and sometimes they'll sit there for a few years before I go back to them. I don't watch them on a regular basis sometimes, unless it's a newer movie. Like right when it comes out, I might watch it a whole bunch. But after a while, it then sits on a shelf for a few years, and then I'll go back to it. Like, oh man, I haven't seen that for a while. And I'll pop it in and watch it. Same thing goes with the digital content. So to me, it's kind of like, how is that fair? And it's one of those things, it's kind of like, perhaps maybe it's something that instead of just buying digital, maybe they need to start doing this thing where, like, I'll stick with Dune, for instance. So Dune is you buy digitally, and let's say in 2030, Amazon is due to lose the licensing rights. Amazon should then contact everybody who has purchased Dune digitally and say, here's a coupon where you can buy it physically for $5.99. And then that gives you the option to then buy it where you have a physical copy. Like, they should have something in that. I don't know if that's the right move, but do something in that regard. Like something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely not what they're doing now. What they're doing now is not the right answer. And I agree with this lawsuit. I actually agree with them going after Amazon Prime for this. I think that they need to put an end to this, and they need to find a better way to go about these digital purchases. I do. But let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. Let's see. Hope for Life says, I don't really care for the whole buying something on digital. I would rather buy a hard copy DVD any day. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are like that. I do know that. Let's see. Brian with an I have never bought any digital format movies. Boomer statement. I know. That's all right. Trayvon says, I bought a lot of movies on YouTube. I've only bought Law & Order Trial by Jury on Amazon Prime. That was part of my massive Law & Order binge watch to begin the year. Let's see. What else do we got? Where are we at? Oh, man. Trayvon says, I do miss seeing movies on VHS. VHS. Man, they took up so much room. I tell you what, VHS was crazy. And then rewinding, like Trayvon says, rewinding a VH tape in full would be worth it to see the classic bumpers and logos again. Hated rewinding VHS tapes, especially when I worked at the video store. Man, you get those VHS, and I have to check it. I had to put it in a rewinder and close it, rewind it. Oh man, it took forever to return videos. It was terrible, terrible. Anyways, yeah. So that's that. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is this. So DC released Superman in July. It was a great family film. People loved it. I loved it. My kids loved it. You loved it. We all loved it. Superman did great. Critics and audiences alike loved it. Over $600 million in the box office. Phenomenal take in 2025. Huge success. People loved it. The follow-up in the DCU is Peacemaker. Episode 1 just released just a handful of days ago. And I tell you what, Peacemaker Episode 1 was great. It was so much fun. So much fun. But we have people bitching and complaining. Shocker. I know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that people would be bitching and complaining about DC? A new DC project and people complaining? Whoo, get out of here. Who would have thought? So, this guy, Danger, Hayden Barton, 39, says the way Gunn lured kids in with a preschool-level Superman film, then baited them into watching Peacemaker Season 2 is one of the most disgusting thing ever done in Hollywood history. Now, I like how Thomas Thorburn up here says Peacemaker is a TVMA show and HBO Max has parental controls so kids can't watch it. Precisely. Not only that, let's take a step back for a second. And then there's another comment I'm going to show here in a second. But Peacemaker Season 1 was TVMA. Peacemaker Season 2 very much was TVMA. James Gunn, which I'll show multiple occasions in promoting Peacemaker Season 2, not for children, he stated. I don't understand where this idea is you bait these kids into going and watching Peacemaker. Okay? Now, number 2, I guarantee most of these people saying this are the same people who used to sit there and get mad at the government when they would sit there and say video games are causing kids to go into schools and kill people. And they would get mad at the government and they would say, well, the parents need to parent their kids. I guarantee it. Because it's the parents' jobs to parent their kids. It's the parents' job to make sure and know what their kids are watching. Okay? That's number 1. That is number 1. That is the number 1 rule in any household. It should be that the parents are watching and making sure that the kids are watching what they should be watching. Now, Thomas up here says that it has parental controls. Yes, it does. But even if it didn't, It's not on HBO Max to have those. It's on the parents to make sure that kids aren't watching something that they shouldn't be watching. James Gunn, HBO Max, DC Studios, Warner Brothers, they've all made it perfectly clear in promoting this show that it's not for kids, that it's TVMA. It's on the parents to make sure their kids don't watch it. The next comment. Oh, look at that. James Gunn had a cameo of Peacemaker, knowing kids would see it and lure them to watch Peacemaker Season 2. It's not about a connected universe. What are you doing, WBD? It's time to fire James Gunn and make DC great again. Now, I like Max Borg here. He says, I find it alarming, given you claim to have kids of your own, that you apparently don't know streaming services have parental controls specifically to prevent children from watching TVMA content like Peacemaker. Okay, again, everybody loves to use the parental controls thing. Screw parental controls. Just be a good parent. Just don't let your kids watch it. Like, it's that simple. Know what your kids are doing. That's the big thing. Literally, I had a conversation with my 16-year-old on Thursday last week when Peacemaker was about to come out. And I knew what was in episode 1. And I was like, nope. Like, that's what you do as a parent, as an adult. Like, that's what you do. Okay? Yes, Peacemaker made a small cameo in Superman. But you don't need to watch Peacemaker to understand Superman. You don't need to watch Peacemaker to then understand Lanterns or to then understand Supergirl. And Peacemaker may very well show up in another project, but you don't need to see the other stuff to understand who Peacemaker is. That's what they don't understand. They're just finding reasons to bitch and complain. That's all they want to do. And it's pathetic. It's just pathetic. Okay? Now, back in July 26, James Gunn says Peacemaker Season 2 is definitely not for kids and more extreme than Season 1. There's that. Let's not forget that Peacemaker had a red band trailer. Red band trailer. If it has a red band trailer, it's not for kids. Full stop. He was also on an interview with Rainn Wilson and states, it is definitely not for children. He never once promoted it for kids. Not once. Just because a character from a show that is for adults pops up in Superman doesn't mean they're luring kids to go watch it. That's just you twisting the narrative, Aaron. That's just you twisting the narrative, Hayden. That's all you're doing. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's childish. And you need to grow up. You need to grow up. That's all it is. Like, just, you don't like it. Okay. Go watch something else. Go watch. We've fully established that you people do not like what James Gunn is doing. What is you doing this, saying this stuff, going to do to change anything? Not a single damn thing. Not a single thing. You think it will, but it's not going to. And you know why? Because you've been crying like little bitches for nearly 10 years. And nobody cares anymore. But what do I know? What do I know? Okay. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about this. It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. I know. But I just wanted to call them out because they're being ridiculous. They're like I said, they're spreading misinformation and lies. And look, I have the proof. I have the proof here. He's never promoted it for children. And that's what they're trying to say, and they're not. So, all right. Next topic. Seth MacFarlane. Actually, before we get into that, let me see what you guys have to say over here. What do you guys have to say over here? Let's see, where are you at here? Jalen says, "Dear God, I can't understand this talking point because they're stupid. That's why." What kid is watching Peacemaker? Yeah, well, like I said, my 16-year-old wanted to, but it is what it is. Hunter Iggy, Slav's Free Talk, the Angry Badger saying right now on his release video says James Gunn ruined David Corn's Sweat. I mean, I've been on streams with Angry Badger before. I'm not surprised we don't see eye to eye, but hey, some people have differing points of view. I mean, I don't have a problem with Angry Badger, so it is what it is. Brian with an eye, I realize parents are very busy, but you can't let your kids run wild online and streaming apps. Thank you. Critic Chris, I still haven't watched The Suicide Squad or any of those shows yet, simply had no interest in them, but I don't judge what I don't watch. There you have it. And Jalen says, oh God, this dumbass again. Critic Chris, facts, Slav. Trayvon says, to be fair, I did grow up watching Austin Powers and Bad Boys. I mean, look, we've all grown up watching things that we probably shouldn't have. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I watched Austin Powers when I was younger, probably younger than I should have been. And kids will find ways to watch things they're not supposed to. I mean, I found ways to watch Beavis and Butthead when my mom told me not to, and Ren and Stimpy when my mom didn't want me to. Those were a little edgier in the 90s than parents wanted kids watching. Kids will find ways to watch things. That's just the way of the world. But it is still on the parents to make sure that and do the best job they can to make sure they're not watching it, to not encourage their kids to watch it. And then when they find out if their kids are watching those things, they punish them so they don't go and do it again. It's that simple. Like, be adults, be parents. It's not James Gunn's job to parent your kids. It's not HBO's job to parent your kids. It's not Warner Brothers' job to parent your kids. It's not the government's job to parent your kids. It's you as the parent to parent your kids. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. I don't understand this mentality that everybody else should be parenting my kid but me. I don't get that mentality. It's pathetic. Oh, boy. Critic Chris says, I recall Aaron stating he would not watch Peacemaker Season 2. What does he do? He goes, watches it for views without a doubt to slander it. Yeah, of course he does. Trayvon says, I did watch Deadpool in theaters twice in theaters when I was 14. I mean, you're close enough. I mean, honestly, did your parents let you? Again, that's a big difference also. Did your parents allow you to? If your parents allowed you to, if they felt that you were able to do it, then and handle it, that's on them. Again, it's up to the parents to decide how they want to raise their kids. Let's see. Movie Talk Now. I think we should blame all future adolescent crime on Peacemaker Season 2. Yes! Anything that happens, any adolescent crime, any orgies, any floppy dicks walking around kitchens, any boobies shaking around in living rooms, any bong hits, it's all because of Season 2 of Peacemaker. That's what we got to do now. Let's see. I grew up on movies like Friday, Boys in the Hood, and Juice. And don't be a menace in South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Boy. Anything else here? Hunter Iggy says, Ren and Stimpy, call the police, and just kidding, and I miss the old days. Yeah, I do too. Brian with an eye, would you rather catch your teenage son watching Peacemaker or Red Shoe Diary? What the hell is Red Shoe Diaries? I don't even know what Red Shoe Diaries is. Maybe I should look that up. I've never even heard of that, so maybe I should do some research. All right. Seth MacFarlane slams Hollywood. We've forgotten how to tell stories of hope. Seth MacFarlane, famously the voice behind Peter Griffin and Quagmire of Family Guy, believes much of today's Hollywood television landscape is, well, depressing. MacFarlane appeared on the Where Everybody Knows Your Name podcast and shared his candid thoughts on Hollywood's current offering. The podcast, hosted by Cheers star Ted Danson, reflected on an era when TV could feel hopeful and welcoming, a place where everybody knows your name. That's the podcast. Seth MacFarlane reminisced about shows from his youth, saying, "When I was a kid, Hollywood was providing that voice in various forms, and there was a lot of hope." He cited Star Trek The Next Generation as inspiration for his own creation, The Orville, a fun space-oriented take on the sci-fi genre. Probably the best Star Trek that isn't Star Trek in years is The Orville, I should say. By contrast, he said, the dishes that we are serving up now are so dystopian and so pessimistic, and yeah, there's a lot to be pessimistic about, but it's so one-sided. There's nothing we're doing that's providing anyone an image of hope. Shows like The Sopranos, The Handmaid's Tale, he argued, exemplify this bleak turn. Seth MacFarlane acknowledged the craftsmanship behind Hollywood TV hits like The Handmaid's Tale, calling it beautifully written, beautifully directed, but emphasized its dismal outlook. There is a lot more of that than what we used to get from Captain Picard, he noted. He also pointed out Hollywood's fixation on anti-heroes and suggested that the industry has perhaps lost its sense of purpose. One of the most poignant statements to Danson, what we do well is tell stories, and we're not doing the best job right now of telling those stories in a way that gives people hope. Beyond The Handmaid's Tale and The Sopranos, shows like 13 Reasons Why, Drawn Together, explore darker aspects of life that most audiences encounter daily. Even superhero and sci-fi shows often skew grim. The Marvel's Ironheart, for instance, Riri Williams, a genius with extraordinary opportunities, turns her back on these gifts, scams fellow students, complains about not being Tony Stark, and joins a gang of criminals. Hardly the lighthearted, hopeful fare viewers expect from a superhero series. Where does this leave us? Trends in entertainment cycle and perhaps the era of relentless dark stories is waning. There was a time when television could tackle life lessons while still offering hope. Shows like Good Times, Facts of Life, Cheers, Friends, and The Office made audiences laugh, fall in love with characters, learn something, and leave with a smile. Television should inspire the best in humanity. Even if Hollywood strays from that path, we live in a time where platforms like YouTube allow creators to inspire and uplift. The human spirit is resilient, and as Doc Brown once said, the future is whatever you make of it, so make it a good one. So I wanted to talk about this because I do think he's on to something here. I think this is an interesting topic. Look, he's not completely wrong. I do think that there are some television shows out there that you have some fun. I mean, there are some comedies out there, and I just watched Stick on Apple TV, and I think that had some hopeful and a great message in it. There's some other TV shows. You take a look at something like Ted Lasso and things. Yes, there are shows out there that bring that hopefulness. But he's right. More often than not, we're looking at shows that are much darker and much more grim than anything else. We've lost that ability to just sit back and have a half-hour, 30-minute sitcom that is just fun, hopeful. Everybody knows your name, like in Cheers, you just sit back and you just know everything that's going on. You Friends, Scrubs, How I Met Your Mother, like all those types of sitcoms that came over, the 20, 30 years from the, 80s, 90s, 2000s, like those sitcoms that came out were phenomenal. Even the ones before that, before my time. Those were all great. Happy Days and I Love Lucy, things like that. Those types of shows just made you feel good. It made you feel like there was a better world out there than what there actually is. It made you forget about what was going on in the world. It's okay to have your shows like Law and Order, your Sopranos, your Handmaid's Tale. It's okay to have those to watch from time to time because you can dive deep into some serious questions about the world, or see, some crazy mysteries and things like that. Sure. But sometimes, as a human being, I feel like you need to be filled with hope and joy and happiness sometimes. And to be able to sit back and just laugh at a show and see a good message is just as important as in entertainment as getting a good story of, seeing a rapist get thrown in prison or get the death penalty or something like that. Like, it's just as important to have those experiences and things like that. So for me, I agree with Seth MacFarlane here because I want to see more sitcoms. I want to see more heartfelt TV shows that are funny, like The Office or like Friends. And yeah, I know some of those shows are dated. I know it's hard to make shows like that in today's age because some people are just very thin-skinned and they can't take jokes, but we got to get back to it. And I think it's great coming from Seth MacFarlane, who I think made probably one of the best comedy films in a long time with The Naked Gun. I mean, it was great. It felt like an old-time comedy straight from the 90s, what I used to love growing up watching those kind of comedies. And it was just a good time. Like it was just one of those movies you sat back. It didn't have any kind of deep message. It was just a good, fun comedy that's just a good time. And that's what Seth MacFarlane does. And look, I know Family Guy, we were just talking about how, watching shows that you shouldn't watch as a kid. Family Guy was definitely one of those shows that some parents don't want their kids watching because of some of the stuff they do in it. But it is a comedy. And it can, as an adult, it's one of those things that you can just turn your brain off and just have a good time with. So personally, like I do agree, like Seth MacFarlane is right here. I do. But what do you think? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right. What are you saying? I need a drink. Oh man, that was delicious. Crazy Joe in season 2 of The Orville, he literally ripped off a story Star Trek Discovery did the season before and didn't even change the character name. That's terrific. But I bet you he did it better. Brian with an I. You're talking to Chris. Trayvon says, this explains why my favorite TV shows are sitcoms like Malcolm in the Middle, Bernie Mac's Show, Full House, Everybody Loves Raymond, King of Queens, The Office, Even Stevens. Yeah, I mean, you're going back to shows that just those types of shows just don't exist anymore. They just don't. And it's sad. I wish they did. They just don't. Crazy Joe said it had potential, but MacFarlane decided to rehash old Trek stories. He is a big Trek fan. Brian with an I need to watch Sopranos, never gave it a shot. I never gave it a real shot either. My brother watched it probably about 15, 20 years ago. He deep dived into Sopranos, and he tried to get me into it, and I just couldn't do it. I need to give it a shot, though. I do. Let's see. Anything else? What else you guys saying? Crazy Joe says he did not do better with it than Discovery did. I don't know. I haven't watched Discovery. I haven't watched New Trek. I tried to watch Picard, that first season of Picard when it came out, and I thought it was just horrendous. I couldn't watch it. And was it Discovery? Maybe it was. Yeah, it was Discovery. I started watching the first season of Discovery. Couldn't get into that either, and I just gave up on it. I did. All right. Got some time. We're going to talk about this last topic here. I'm going to pull this up. And look, I know a lot of you all know this. All right. We know that the DC fandom, well, there is a divide within it. There is. Is it a 50-50 split? No, it's not. Is it 50-30? 50-30? That doesn't make any sense. 70-30? Wow, my math. Woo! Is it 70-30? 80-20? What is it? Who knows exactly what it is? I don't really know. But there is absolutely a divide within the DC fandom. So the question is, when did this divide happen? Because so many people right now are trying to claim that it was James Gunn and Superman. So much so, let me see if I can pull it up right now. You guys may know this YouTuber, Snarky J. She is a cosplayer YouTuber. And I saw this video pop up the other day. And let me see if I can find it. Come on. Where are her videos? Here we go. Right here. It says, why James Gunn's Superman is splitting the fandom. Okay. I thought that was interesting. She posted a video. Why James Gunn's Superman is splitting the fandom. So I watched, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a bit of it. I was like, that sounds interesting. Like, I don't agree with that title, so maybe it's a clickbaity title. Let me watch it. And through it, she pretty much goes into it saying that it's James Gunn, the way he makes movies, this Superman wasn't the Superman everybody wanted. Now, she does go into it and explain, like, hey, Man of Steel wasn't what people wanted either. Hey, what they did with the DCEU wasn't what people wanted. But James Gunn this, James Gunn that, James Gunn this, James Gunn that. She doesn't really get down to the matter. But we then had, well, the video the other day where I was attacked by one of the guys from Lethal Geeks who claims in it that it is James Gunn's fault that the DC movie and franchise is failing. It's his fault and everything like that. It's because of him that it's going to fail. All that kind of stuff. Whatever it was he said. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that's basically what he was saying. And then we see it all the time on social media. Time after time, people claiming it's James Gunn, it's James Gunn, it's James Gunn. James Gunn did this, James Gunn did this, James Gunn did this. It's like, hold up a second. James Gunn and Peter Safran came into the fold at the end of 2022. This fighting, this back and forth within the fandom has been going on way before that. Way before that. So, what is the truth behind DC's fandom war? People love to rage bait. Right now, the new target is James Gunn and his Superman movie. According to some of these critics, Gunn is the guy who tore the DC fandom in half. Easy clicks, but completely false. The divide in this fandom didn't start with Gunn. Hell, it didn't even start with the Suicide Squad. If you want to understand where this war really began, you have to rewind to June 2013. See, coming off of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, the DC fandom was buzzing with hope. Warner Brothers had chosen Zack Snyder to reintroduce Superman, and people were excited to see what the visionary director could bring. Then, Man of Steel hit theaters. Financially, it was fine. Over $660 million worldwide is nothing to sneeze at. But reception? That's where things got messy. Superman was no longer the bright, smiling beacon of hope that defined the character for 8 decades. Snyder's Superman was brooding, conflicted, and at times downright gloomy. To some, this was fresh and modern. To others, it was a betrayal of the core character. That tension, that was the first crack in the foundation. But Warner Brothers didn't pump the brakes. They doubled down. Snyder was handed Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, which wasn't just a Superman sequel, but also a Batman movie, a Wonder Woman debut, and a setup for the Justice League. Instead of winning audiences over, the film made the divide permanent. Fans who were unsure about Man of Steel now had their answer. This wasn't their Superman. He was dour, joyless, and constantly sidelined in his own movie. Meanwhile, Snyder loyalists planted their flag. To them, this vision was bold, operatic, and misunderstood. From that moment, the fandom was split in two. And unlike Marvel fans who were busy celebrating every new entry, DC fans were already at war with each other. What followed was chaos. Snyder loyalists, who would later be dubbed Snyder Bros or Snyder cultists, defended every creative choice like it was gospel. On the other side, you had comic purists and casual fans who wanted films that felt closer to the source material. Every new DC release turned into a battlefield. Shazam, a fun comic-accurate film, was dismissed as childish. The Flash, mocked endlessly. Snyder Bros didn't just criticize, they attacked directors, writers, and executives online. They even went after filmmakers completely outside DC just for saying something they didn't like. And keep in mind, all this toxicity existed years before James Gunn or Peter Safran were anywhere near DC Studios. Then came 2020. The Snyder Cut of Justice League was announced. For Snyder loyalists, it was vindication. For casual fans, it was curiosity. And for grifters on YouTube, it was a goldmine. Suddenly, content creators were spinning tales of full Snyderverse restoration. Fake scoops, false promises, and wild speculation ran rampant. Every video was designed to get clicks. Not tell the truth, but get clicks. Fans who bought into it became even more entrenched. Fans who didn't, they got louder about calling it all nonsense. Arguments escalated. The divide widened. Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg, also came forward with serious allegations about misconduct on the set of Justice League. Yes, important issues, but Snyder loyalists turned it into another weapon against Warner Brothers, mobilizing attacks on anyone who disagreed with them. From the outside looking in, the DC fandom now looked toxic and unhinged. And let's not let Warner Brothers off the hook here. Their leadership was a revolving door. Executives made promises to actors they had no real way of fulfilling. Projects were announced and even made that were killed off. There was no vision, no plan, just reactionary decision-making. That chaos gave Snyder Bros even more ammo to cry foul. But then came the Discovery merger. David Zaslav wanted to clean house. He wanted a proper studio system for DC, not random executives pulling strings. During his search for leadership, there was a power struggle within Warner Brothers, and fans were fed even more false hope. Eventually, James Gunn and Peter Safran were announced as co-CEOs. Fact is, Gunn wasn't the spark. He was just the next scapegoat. His hiring meant course corrections. It meant scraping old, broken promises. It meant finally giving DC a clean slate. But for the Snyder Bros, this was unforgivable. Instead of moving on, they doubled down on hashtag sell Zack Snyder's Justice League to Netflix, hashtag wallets closed, hashtag fire James Gunn. They thought they were fighting for the true DC vision. In reality, they're hurting the brand they claim to love and driving away the casual audience even further. So let's be crystal clear. James Gunn didn't cause this divide. His Superman movie didn't cause the divide. The fracture has been here since 2013, born out of Snyder's polarizing vision, fueled by Warner Brothers' incompetence, and kept alive by a toxic subsection of the fandom addicted to rage. The DC fandom isn't broken because of Gunn. It's broken because for over a decade, fans have been fighting each other instead of rallying around the characters. Gunn just happens to be the latest lightning rod. And if history tells us anything, once the rage baiters burn out on Gunn and Superman, they'll find a new target. Because for them, it's never about celebrating DC. It's about feeding the divide. So there it is, guys. That I wanted to read to you. I wanted to get it out there to you. I wanted you to understand. This is not posted on Slav's Free Talk yet. It should be up there sometime tomorrow. It'll be up there for you to share away. And I encourage you all to share it. If anybody wants to try and put out there that it's James Gunn who divided this fandom or it's Superman that divided this fandom, this is it. And I don't hold back. I put the blame on the fans. I put the blame on Warner Brothers. I put the blame on the Snyder fandom as well. Like, it's all there. But none of it falls on James Gunn, Peter Safran, or the Superman movie. And it all stems way back to when Man of Steel came out. People don't want to understand that. People don't want to accept that. To me, it's just one of those crazy things that people want to just continuously change and change the past to fit their own narrative. And it's just again, you have people like the guy that, what was his name, Costellos or whatever, who comes at me and says, you don't do your homework, you don't do your research, you don't know what you're talking, you just say stuff and blah blah blah. Nah, man, like, I was there, I lived through it, I know everything, I know way better than you do. This is the truth, and like, I could keep going. Like, this is the kind of stuff that they don't want to hear or see. That's why they're attacking someone like me. That's why they're trying to put me down, because they don't want to hear this stuff. They don't want this kind of stuff getting out there, because if this gets out there, it completely destroys their narrative. And the only way this stuff continues to get out there, the only way the truth gets out there, is from help from you guys. Making sure you guys, when you're in those arguments and discussions and things like that, you have the right information to give them. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I have the website and I put this kind of stuff up there. I make the videos I make because I want to make sure you guys have the right information as well. What are you guys saying over here? Crazy Joe says, I'm a huge fan of Walter Hamada. Man came into a bad situation, had a plan, and it was working until COVID derailed him. Yeah, I'm still one of those people that would have liked to have seen what Hamada was going to do fully. I do. Because there was a lot of talk about him leading up to a whole, like, big Flashpoint, like a huge Flashpoint type of storyline, which I think would have been cool. Like a Crisis on Infinite Earths type of thing as well. Like, that's what I mean, not Flashpoint, Crisis. Like, that would have been cool. Let's see. Trayvon says that Argue the Divide started with Nolan. After the Dark Knight trilogy, had those who genuinely believe that DC should be all dark and serious all the time. Yeah, in a way, I get what you're saying there, but had things been done differently, like if Man of Steel came out, and because of the way it was received, and it wasn't, like, great, had they decided to go a different direction with the next movie, it wasn't Zack Snyder, they got somebody else and they did something different, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't. There wouldn't be the divide. People wouldn't be freaking out, all that kind of stuff. Like, I get what you're saying, but I think it would be completely different in that regard. Joe James says, we still getting Flashpoint. I don't know about that. Not anytime soon, I can tell you that much. Boy. All right. Where are we at? Go back here. Oh, boy. All right, guys. I'm going to head out for the night. This was a fun show. Now, this Friday, if things go well, if things go like I want it to, my Watchtower is actually going to be really early in the day. Really, really early in the day. So you might not be able to catch it live. If you don't, that's okay. The reason why my show is going to be really, really early is because I'm going to be on somebody else's show later on Friday night. I'm not going to reveal who that is just yet. I'm going to wait until he's ready to reveal that I'll be on his show. But I'm excited as long as everything goes how it's supposed to go. I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool. He reached out to me yesterday and was like, hey, man, I've been meaning to get you on the show. What about this Friday? I was like, whoa. Yeah, absolutely. So this Friday, like I said, earlier in the day is going to be the Watchtower. And then that night I'll be on somebody else's show. I will get all that information out for all you guys in regards to that. That way, I still cover my topics on the Watchtower, specifically covering Peacemaker Episode 2, and then everything else that comes up DC related throughout the week. Anything else over here before I go? Nothing else? Nothing else. Okay. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching tonight. And with all that said, I will catch you all later. And make sure you Like, subscribe, follow me on the socials, and check out SlavsFreeTalk.com, darn it. But with all that said, I'll catch you all later.